Paper Mario is back. Please don't have screwed it up again this time. And it sees the return of one of the best aspects of the older games, the partner system. In the earlier games, throughout your explorations of these arts and crafts environments, you'll be joined by some of the most charismatic and well-developed Mario characters to date. And today I'd like to lend them a spotlight, ranking the very best in a list based on both personality and utility within their respective games, from the original through Color Splash.
And so without further ado, let's fold out, cut to the chase, and a third paper cliche I can't think of, leave a comment below, and begin.
Coming in at number 10 is the elusive mistress of crime and badge fanatic herself, Ms. Mouse. She's a sassy femme fatale, but like a mouse version, I guess? You meet Ms. Mouse a number of times as a supporting anti-hero across the first few chapters, seeing her in action looting rare badges, and can also find her selling those badges in her Rogueport shop. During your encounters, she's confident and flirty, teasing the other partners and giving Mario the pet name, My Little Cheese Hunk, which is almost good flirting. She only becomes playable towards the end of the game, where after completing a side quest to help her find a rare item, she reveals she hid it to test you and joins the party.
Given you mostly bump into her while she's got other stuff going on, Miss Mouse stands out as a far more proactive side character, which makes the reveal she's playable all the sweeter.
After joining, she can be used to search out rare items and hidden coin blocks, making her invaluable for nabbing those late game collectibles. And in battle, she stands out as the only predominantly support character in the game, with most of her moves based around healing, stealing character badges, and inducing status effects. Being the only optional party member does make her stand out, but also means she lacks the same plot allocated time for her to develop. And other than being mysterious and flirty, her character and motivations are left pretty much unexplored. Still, she's enough personality and charm to woo me into granting her a space. Just please, God, don't Google image search her. Ha ha ha. Fucking yikes. Sushi is a fish called Sushi, which is pretty goddamn troubling if you think about it. She brash, she splash, but most important, if you press action commands on tidal wave 14 times, the game crash. No, not again. Coming in as one of the latest recruited companions from the first game, you meet Sushi as the babysitter for the several Yoshi children on Lava Lava Island. She later joins you when they get lost in the jungle, and her and Mario team up to find them. Her moves in battle make her one of the most versatile partners too, with decent damage output for both targeted and general attacks. Being a cheap sheep, they naturally revolve around manipulating water and belly flops, which synergizes nicely with and is especially useful in the chapter she's introduced, which ends with a volcano and giant flaming piranha plant. Outside of battle, her abilities can be used to swim around certain parts of the overworld from conveniently placed docks, which is surprisingly versatile and useful, especially during the Yoshi hunt around Jade Jungle.
Just a shame in the next game she got replaced by folding yourself into a boat. I'm really sorry you had to find out like this.
For being such a well-rounded ally in and out of combat with a sensitive and sweet personality, Sushi stands out among the roster without being anything especially remarkable. Did you know she named her daughter Sashimi? Now that's just sick.
Paper Mario Color Splash is the reason I'll remain cautiously optimistic for the future of the series. Parts of it were pretty good. Never as good as the best ones, but a damn sight better than what came before.
And what would an above-mediocre Mario RPG be without an above-mediocre Mario RPG partner? Huey! He's a paint pot, he can... It's Huey! Huey is your, sadly, only partner character in the 5th game, who serves as a companion and guide for your time on Prism Island. While I do miss the more emotionally nuanced aspects of the earlier titles, I can't deny I enjoy the goofier aspects too, which is what Color Splash excels at, and what Huey as a comic sidekick really ties together. Despite just being a paint can with a face, his papery aesthetic and creative uses the game has for his handles/arms make him incredibly expressive and charismatic when he's squeezing things into cards, tearing the 4th wall to shreds, or tearfully vowing to protect Mario before immediately fleeing once a giant chain chomp appears. The rapport you build with him throughout the game ensures when he nearly sacrifices himself in the final boss against literally Blackface in 2016, it's surprisingly emotional.
He's better written enough that, unlike Kirsty and Sticker Star, you actually care whether he lives or dies, which is a fairly low bar to cross, but still nice that they passed it.
Sorry to get your hopes up, we're not rich. Unless you count friendship, which I do. Rock on, you beautiful tinny boy, you. This still doesn't compensate for the lack of other allies and combat styles, though. The Yoshi Kid, child of the fighting arena, born champion, and your trusted ally from the moment you hatch him. This little guy may not look tough, but packs a fair punch, with Gulp being one of the only defense-piercing moves in the game, and Stampede being one of, if not the best screen-clearing attacks. Having an ally be born in front of you from a rogue cooking egg is a pretty unique way to introduce a side character, and it's made more memorable by his having 6 coloured skins and hairdos he can emerge with, and you even get to name your Yoshi yourself, creating a much more personal relationship with the player. His overworld ability to run fast as well as hover over small gaps makes him one of the most versatile and often used companions too, plus it just looks funny to ride. He's so small. While it does irk me a tad how the Iron Clef mini-boss's infinite defense breaks the rules of the game's own combat system to force the player into finding and using the Yoshi Kid in battle, and he does have one of the more obnoxious personalities, he works well enough as a great Gonzales hype man to raise the stakes of the later Glitz Pit fights, and as a cute and wholesome sidekick through the tougher battles, invaluable for late-game backtracking. Some Paper Mario partners work as a general fun aspect of the games they're introduced in, whereas others excel at strengthening and building upon a specific segment or chapter. Lady Bow is one of the best examples of the latter. You meet her first after making it through the puzzles and traps of her illustrious spooky mansion, where it's revealed she holds the Star Spirit of Chapter 3, and to get it back you'll need to assist her in exploring the home of and defeating the evil Tubba Blubber, who's been harassing and eating the inhabitants of the neighbouring Boo Village. I love the combination of arid and foresty environments, the symmetry of having the town bordered by 2 illustrious fortresses, as well as the fun role reversal where literal ghosts are being haunted by an apparently invulnerable monster. Bow's ability to hide Mario without a sight is worked seamlessly into both exploration and combat, helping you sneak past guards in Tubba's castle and to avoid damage from charged attacks of the chapter's hyper enemies and eventually the chapter boss. Out of sight is honestly kind of broken as a move, given how Mario not missing a turn allows him to exploit the shit out of low damage strategies using Mega and Power Rush badges to finish even later bosses in like 1 or 2 turns. She's great outside her chapter too, with her sneering aristocratic tone melding well with the cartoonish goofy enemies later on, but it's how her personality and movesets synergize with the environment she's introduced in that makes her stand out. Bao sure puts the class into classic N64 RPG platformer and floats tall as one of the most entertaining and essential aspects of the original game.
Some people say Goombella's just a cheap reiteration of Goombario from PM64, but they're wrong, and for the following reasons.
1. She's adorable. 2. Her being an archaeology student sets up the motifs of the game nicely, setting you in for this adventure with its greater focus on decaying ruins and civilizations. I like that her design of wearing a torch hat that's never needed in the whole game sets up her personality of being bookish but inexperienced, without needing a line of dialogue. In cutscenes, she's got this kind of Valley Girl dialect, occasionally ditzy, but headstrong and completely unafraid to roast the shit out of anyone who crosses her. Her most notable feature, however, and primary advantage over Goombario is the Tattle ability both Goombas have, where enemy stats are revealed as well as general information about them. What sets Goombella apart, however, is how much personality and charm bleeds into these lore dumps. Learning which foes Goombella finds cute or gross or scary brings the world to life, and the flavor text help to grow out the game's universe and set the tone of individual battles and boss fights. It helps that Goombella has one of the more entertaining and funny personalities too, given if you want 100% the game, she'll probably end up being your most used partner character. She's not the best combat-wise, Headbonk and Multibonk have decent damage outputs once upgraded, but can't hit ceiling, spiked or fire enemies, and are worthless versus enemies with high defense. But Rallywink, allowing her to lend her turn to give Mario a second one, is a lot more versatile, and allows for multiple new strategies and approaches, given Mario's moveset is far more complex than any partner character. Goombella is a friendly guide and fearsome ally, which earns her keep as the primary exposition giver and one of the best papery buddies to date. Parakarry is not the working class hero we deserve, but he's the one we really need right now. Not just a tool for Mario's adventure or any of this ephemeral bourgeois swine, but a fully fledged contributor to society as a humble postal worker. Because in this fantasy world of Mario enemies, which would be the guys to deliver mail? Probably the ones that can fly, dipshit. I'm sorry, that was uncalled for. While flying with Mario underneath, he can only fly for slightly longer than a standard jump, which comes in handy exactly as much as you'd expect in a game that introduced a partner with that ability. His main talent talent comes in his side quest potential, however, where letters found around the overworld, presumably dropped by the clumsy Parakarry, can be returned to various NPCs in exchange for star pieces or badges.
Because of this, Parakarry isn't just an excellent element within the story, he's the glue that binds the character relations together, transforming this fairly disparate selection of villages and platforming challenges into an organic world that exists well outside of your adventures.
You learn about characters' families, their dreams, their aspirations, and grow to love the whole cast, in addition to the well-meaning but mildly incompetent postman beside you, and it's all super cute and wholesome. From your initial meeting, aiding him collect the lost post on Mount Rugged, to completing the final steps of that letter chain at the end of the game, Parakarry holds a special place in my heart that seals him as ultimately the best sidekick from the first game. Admiral Bobbery is the most emotionally resonant character I've seen in a game featuring a cloud with tits. He's introduced as the legendary Bob-omb sailor you try to recruit to scout out the treasure of Keelhaul Key, but has unfortunately forsaken the oceans following a bout of depression after becoming suddenly widowed while he was out at sea. His mind is only turned by returning to him a letter written by his late wife on her deathbed, urging him to move on, that ends with the perfect phrase, "Though you will mourn, I beg that you will remember that time, like love, is a tide. You are one with the sea as you are one with me. Do not lose both of your life's loves."
These are super cartoony stories, and I feel like in another game of this tone, Bobbery's wife would come back or turn out to have never died, but here it is, treated with such genuine dignity and respect, and I just love it. I love it.
When he finally does join your party, there's this bond of trust and respect that makes it all the more meaningful. He's not just a part of your adventure, you're a part of his, with the quest to save Peach from the X-Nauts serving as an epilogue to his tales as a general adventurer. And this lad's an absolute unit in battle, fucking exploding himself at all that cross him. But don't worry, he gets better. With the very best moves for clearing screens of enemies, most useful for the Pit of 100 Trials, despite soaking up a ton of FP. In contrast to his bombastic fighting style, his character is much more calm and reserved. It's that level of gravitas and composure that makes Bobbery my go-to pick for most cutscenes later on. He just lends them this classy, dramatic energy and tone, which I really appreciate. Bobbery is the epitome of class, building upon the game's world and scale with a backstory that packs an unexpectedly powerful punch, and stealing the show in every scene and battle you bring him to.
You know, for a channel named after Super Paper Mario, I've done an impressive amount of never once talking about Super Paper Mario in the 6.5 years running this channel.
So without further ado, I'd like to announce it's a good game. I think it's pretty good. It's a pretty good game. You play it and it's like fun and good.
And one of the pretty goodiest things about it was the overarching story and development of a few larger characters like Count Bleck, and the number 2 entry for this list, Tippy.
Tippy, a partner so lovable her disappearance causes this dumb bitch to attempt to fulfill an ancient prophecy to destroy the universe. Nice. Tippy, or Lady Timpani, was a human who began a forbidden fling with a man named Blumiere. His father, after learning of their affair, then banishes Timpani to an alternate dimension, destroying her memories and feelings for her lost love, and disguising her as a butterfly-shaped pixel. She's found in Flipside, renamed Tippy, and Blumiere, out of anger and heartbreak, transforms into the evil Count and sets into motion a prophecy to wipe out all dimensions, and the game properly begins. Mario meets Tippy as this bubbly amnesiac, who assists the gang by allowing him to learn information about the enemies in the world in a similar vein to the previous game's Goomba guides, but can also reveal hidden objects and information to help you through the levels.
Wait, why would an amnesiac be used to deliver most of the game's exposition? Just leave it, it's not important.
She's a fun, likeable character, but there's always this sense of something being missing, built upon further with her backstory being drip-fed in the beautifully written memory segments in between chapters. I guess they're not much now, but I played this game when I was 8. These were like fucking Shakespeare. This complexity escalates up to the point she remembers who both her and Count Bleck are and vows to save him from himself, which builds into the most heartfelt ending one of these games has seen, when the reunited couple commit themselves to each other at last in one final sacrifice to reignite the Pure Hearts, allowing the squad to defeat the true final boss, Super Dimentio. We will use the Pure Hearts again this time to banish the Chaos Heart. All we need is true love, and that's something I am lucky enough to possess. I could talk about Super Paper Mario all day, and I probably have been here for too long already, but I love this game's world and story, and the use of Tippy as the emotional core, tying together the plot while bonding the player intimately to the inciting incidents of the game, is one of the primary reasons it works so well, and why this simple rainbow butterfly companion ranks so highly here.
I mean, it had to be Vivian.
Vivian is not only the best Paper Mario character, but has one of the best and most interesting character arcs of really any Nintendo character, and I love her very much. You meet Vivian first, not as an ally, but as a boss. One of the 3 Shadow Sirens sent by the X-Nauts to capture Mario in order to steal his Crystal Stars, to summon their ancient master, the Shadow Queen. You see her picked on by her sisters, but unlike the only other partner character first introduced as a mini-boss, it's not obvious she'll become your friend until much later. The Sirens are later seen in the 4th chapter, where Vivian is again bullied and blamed for a plan to defeat Mario with a big bomb falling through. After your identity and body are stolen by Dupless later on, shit happens, you know, and all of your other partners desert you to follow along with the imposter, you find Vivian on her own, and, not knowing of your true identity, she begins to bond with Mario over their shared rejection from society and being purple. You help her find the lost Super Bob-omb, and she vows to help you find your true identity. The shared kinship here happens a lot more organically than most other partners joining you, and at a time in the game where all of your allies have turned against you, her companionship is ever more valuable. Her availability here helps you eavesdrop on crows, which isn't hugely relevant to her character, but it is pretty neat regardless. Her arc isn't truly completed until the end of the chapter though, where, in the showdown against your tricked former allies and Dupless in Mario's body, Vivian learns who you always were, but decides to stay on and fight regardless, rejecting her abusive sisters and forging a new path to do good on her own. The aesthetic of the solidarity of the outcast is as cute as it is powerful, and Vivian's conflicting allegiances make her the most interesting and well-developed partner character by far, with her eventual commitment to break free of her expectations and defeat the people that isolated and victimized her being the most engaging motivation of any character. She's not bad in combat either. Her standard attack, Shade Fist, is the only one of any partner to deal lasting status damage, and Fiery Jinx and Effectuate are good supporting tactics. Her availability is somewhat nerfed from Bow's very similar move, now forcing Mario to miss the turn immediately after, but it still synergizes well with the Chapter 4's hyper enemies as well as the charging moves of the final boss, which I really like because conceptually fighting the Unleashed Shadow Queen alongside her former servant is the most thematically powerful way to finish the game.
While Tippy and Bobbery add a layer of emotional complexity to the story, and Goombella and Parakarry help to flesh out the world, Vivian accomplishes both simultaneously.
Her redemption arc and finding community outside of her cruel family shows the player their actions have genuine consequences in the world to make things better, spurring you on as you explore further through the game. And having a boss who is designed like a boss turn out to be your ally breaks down the rigid boundaries RPGs often fall into to make the game feel more fluid and organic. Whichever way you slice it, Vivian is the absolute GOAT.
This video has been pretty lighthearted, but I want to end it on a slightly more serious note. Some of you may not know this, but Vivian is trans. She's a trans woman. And you may not know this because despite her clearly being referred to as trans in the original Japanese text, as well as some European translations like the French, Spanish and Italian versions, all references to her transition were removed, censored really, from all English-speaking releases of the game. Somewhere along the line, a decision was made that the potential backlash from reactionary groups was more of a financial risk to the game's sales than the reactions from isolated and less powerful trans people and their allies. And so, that's the group that wins. Art and integrity be damned. I bring this up for 2 reasons. Firstly, because I care about censorship and artistic integrity. Vivian being trans makes the game better. It provides the pretext for Beldam and Marilyn bullying her, which in turn makes her finding community with Mario's party later on more meaningful, as opposed to the English translation where she's bullied for nothing and thus has less reason to leave. If in the not unlikely scenario Nintendo decide to remake Thousand Year Door, I will push for Vivian to be made trans again. Hashtag make Vivian trans again, but I also think not bringing this up would be a disservice to the greater trans community in gaming and elsewhere. There's a common wrong idea presented by those who would seek to deny trans people rights and autonomy that all these trans issues just aren't that important because it's all just popped up recently, or they're somehow specific to this time and place. And that wrong idea is perpetuated because the stories we receive from history, all that are imported from other cultures, pass through these cultural and economic filters, whether bigoted and reactionary with institutional power can deny visibility to those without that power, often as a jumping off point to deny more important things like healthcare, safety, or access to public spaces. And I think people sometimes need to be reminded of the beautiful transness of our world, even if it's often hidden from us. Binary and non-binary trans people have always and will always exist, and any denial of that simple fact is only a defense of a person's ignorance and close-mindedness.
Anyway, Vivian is best gal. I like her cute hat. Happy belated Pride Month, my fellow queers.
Hey, sorry for not uploading for 10 months. I'll cop to it, that was pretty cheeky. I didn't miss anything, right? With the world, everything's just normal world stuff. Everything is fine. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you hopefully sooner than it was this time.